we're going to have our two kidneys, okay? Notice that the right kidney, guys, is lower than the left. And the reason for that would be what? The liver, guys. The liver pushes down on the right side a lot more than the left side. Okay, it's bigger on the right. Okay. You'll notice that the kidneys have a great blood supply to them, guys. Very large blood vessels, and they're very vascular organs. Okay. Out from the kidneys, we will have the ureters, guys. Those are those long tubes. Okay. You'll notice, guys, that they're bigger or thicker up at the top, and they get smaller as you go down. They are funnel shaped, guys. And once we get into the kidneys are an organ that has a lot of funnels running into other funnels. Okay. Now, from the ureters, guys, we go into the urinary bladder. Make sure you use that for an answer, guys. Urinary bladder, because there's more than one bladder in the human body, okay? And then we come out to what we call the urethra, okay? And the urethra hopefully is longer in a male than in a female, okay? If you're out on a date and they have a long urethra and you're a male, you might want to rethink something. Okay, so that is that. Now, guys, we're going into the inside of the kidney. Here's the inside of the kidney, guys. Okay, right here, you can see it. We have a nice big green plaque. Everybody's got one. Okay. Now, what you need to know about the kidneys, guys, the outside is called the renal capsule. Okay, the renal capsule, guys, it is very, very fibrous, a lot of collagen fibers in there, and it is tough, guys. It's going to protect the delicate structures inside of the kidney. Okay, now, once we get into the kidney, you will notice that there are two distinct colors here, guys. These are basically different layers, okay? The outside pale layer, guys, that is called the renal cortex, okay? The renal cortex. Then we go down into the next layer, guys, where it is a little bit darker, and that is called the renal medulla, okay? The renal medulla, okay? Now, in that renal medulla area, guys, you're going to see a bunch of triangular shaped structures here. Those are known as the renal pyramids. Okay, the renal pyramids. Okay. Now, in between the pyramids, guys, you'll notice that there is some of the cortex tissue that separates the pyramids. Okay? Those pieces that separate the pyramids, guys, those are called the renal columns. Okay, the renal columns. All right? Now, guys, check out this pyramid right here. Okay? What's this right here?
Column.
Renal column. What's this here?
Renal column.
Renal column. One pyramid and two renal columns, guys, that equals one lobe. Okay, that's
Renal
one lobe. Yep, renal lobe. Okay?
So two columns and one.
Two columns and one pyramid. Okay? That would be a renal lobe. Alright?
How can you tell apart the renal medulla from the renal pyramid?
The renal medulla.
Yeah.
The renal medulla is this entire layer where the renal pyramids are located. Okay? So the pyramids are a structure, the medulla is a layer, okay, or an area. Okay, got it?
So you have two layers. You have
You have
outer-
the cortex?
You have the cortex and the medulla, which is made up of your pyramids and columns.
Yes. Okay. Now, guys, the renal pyramids, okay, They're gonna have a base, which is its wide section, and then they come to a point, which is its what? Apex, okay? Now guys, if you look at that, that's a funnel, okay? Funnels are wide, and then they direct fluid usually downward and into a precise spot, okay? So we're gonna see a bunch of funnels, guys, with the kidneys, okay? So once again, outside, what do we call that? Renal capsule, okay? Renal cortex, renal medulla, okay? Then we looked at the renal pyramids, the renal columns, okay? Now, the apexes of the pyramids, guys, have a name. They are called the renal papilla. Renal papilla, those are the apexes, okay? Is everybody good with that? The apexes of the pyramids.
The renal pyramids are there.
The renal papilla are the apexes. Okay. Now guys, once again, what do the kidneys filter?
Blood.
Blood. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to have a great blood supply coming in, okay, and bringing the blood all the way to the cortex, okay? And then what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to bring it through the renal pyramids. Inside there, we have our functional unit of the kidney called the nephron, okay? So the nephrons, guys, are going to be between the cortex and the renal pyramids or the medulla area. Okay, so that's where the filtration takes place. Now, yeah. What's going to happen, guys, we're bringing blood into the organ all the way up to the cortex. Okay? And then the blood's going to come down from the cortex into the renal medulla area. Okay? Now, between the cortex and the medulla, there are the functional units called the nephron. Okay? The nephron, guys, is what actually filters your blood. Okay? It's going to filter the blood. Now, guys, you ever watch old movies of people mining gold in like rivers and streams? Okay? They usually build a box and then they put a screen mesh underneath it and they go into the river and they just jam it into the mud and they pull it up and then they use the river water to wash the what out?
The dirt.
The dirt out, okay? And hopefully those grates are small enough that the sand goes through but the gold doesn't, okay? That's how the nephron works, guys. There's an actual filtering mechanism there, okay? Now what's happening, guys, is blood's coming by, but blood's too big to go through that mesh. It's like the screen on your window. The blood is actually too big to go through the screen, but all the stuff that's smaller than the screen holes do what? They fall out, okay? So that's called the filtrate, okay? The filtrate, guys, is a bunch of water and ions and nutrients and small peptides or amino acids, okay? Things like that are in that filtrate, okay? Now, what happens here, guys, we're filtering that fluid called a filtrate through the renal pyramid, okay? Now, once it's been filtered, guys, what happens is at the renal papilla, at those apexes, you'll notice that they're hooked up to another what? Another funnel, okay? There's another funnel, guys. At the end of each renal papilla, there's a funnel here. And those funnels are called the minor calyxes, okay? Minor calyx. Now, you'll notice that from that minor calyx, they go into a what? Another funnel that's bigger called the major calyx. Okay? Now we'll have a couple of major calyxes that will now go into the last funnel here, guys, and that is called the renal pelvis. The renal pelvis, guys, is that final funnel. Okay? Now that funnel will continue, guys, and as it comes down, it now becomes the ureter. Okay? Now, the ureters, guys, those are the long tubes that are going to now have what inside of it? The urine. Okay? So the urine, guys, gets into those ureters, and these aren't just regular tubes, guys. These actually have muscles in them, and they undergo peristaltic contraction, just like the GI tract, and it helps force the urine down into your urinary bladder. Okay? Now, when we get to the urinary bladder, guys, it's pretty interesting. Let me just show you a quick picture of it.
So that's parasympathetic as well.
What's that?
It would be parasympathetic.
All of it, whole thing, parasympathetic, guys. Okay, now guys, look, up here, with the dye in the kidneys here, guys, we can actually see the minor what? The minor calyxes, the major calyxes, the renal pelvis, coming down into the ureters, okay? And here is the urinary bladder. Now these ureters, guys, they don't go to the top of the bladder and drip the fluid in. They actually go posterior, and then they come up into the bladder. So your bladder fills from the bottom what? Bottom up, not from the top down. Okay? Okay. And here's the bladder here, guys. That's your bladder there. Okay? And we'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Okay, we'll back up a little bit. Yes?
I just want to know, at what point does the renal pelvis become
Once it gets down, you'll see the change in the size. So, like right here, this would start the ureter. Okay, so once it comes out of that white area, okay, and then we start the ureter. All right, so anywhere like from here all the way down is going to be ureter. Okay, that thick portion where it looks like the funnel, that's going to be the renal pelvis. Okay, and we'll go over that. Okay. Okay, now guys, inside here we already looked at the renal pyramids, okay, we looked at the renal columns, we looked at the minor calyxes, okay, we looked at the major calyxes, renal pelvis, ureter coming out, okay. Now, in between the calyxes, guys, there are windows that open up. Those are called the renal sinuses, okay? It's like the spaces in between your fingers, guys. If you separated your fingers, these would all be the renal sinuses, okay? Now, what's inside there, guys, if you would look at a real kidney, we would be loaded in here, guys, with our good old fun tissue. What's the fun tissue, guys, of the body? Fat, okay? Adipose tissue, okay? Now, why adipose? Because adipose tissue is a great insulator. It also helps protect things. Now remember, the inside of the kidney, guys, is very, very delicate, okay? So we're going to have adipose cells in there, okay? And behind the adipose, guys, that is where the blood actually comes up into the cortexes. So the blood vessels, guys, run through the renal sinuses and right through the renal columns, okay? And it brings the blood out to the cortex where it will get filters. Yes?
What's the difference with the renal medulla and the renal pyramid?
Renal pyramid, once again, is a structure that is located in the renal medulla area, okay? You remember the adrenal glands?
Right,
Right, we had the capsule, we had the cortex and the medulla,
right.
just different layers, that's the difference. So these are
So the
located
whole is
within,
the medulla and the floor, the walls at the bottom will be the pyramid?
no, this region, this whole region is the medulla.
Oh, okay, gotcha. In
Second
the
layer
medulla,
in.
we have pyramid.
And then in that medulla region, you will find the pyramids there. Okay? Good.
And a lobe is considered like one unit of the.
It's gonna be
cell.
one of these and one column on each side. Okay, so that's a lobe. Okay? Okay. Ooh, here's a better picture, nice and big. Okay? Okay, so we did the fibrous capsule, cortex, medulla area, renal pyramids, base, apexes, also known as the renal what? Papilla, minor calyxes, the major calyxes, renal pelvis, and then the ureter. Everybody go with those structures so far? Okay.
What number for the ureter?
Renal pelvis.
Renal pelvis. Alright.
Okay. So once again, guys, all the kidney is a funnel to a funnel to a funnel to a bigger funnel and out. Okay? Okay. Now, once again, guys, these opened areas, we call them what?
Renal sinus.
Renal sinuses, and what are we going to find in there? Adipose tissue and
Blood vessels.
the blood vessels. Okay? So everybody's cool with this right here, right?
Hmm?
Where does the blood come from? It's on your exam. No, your blood exam. Renal artery, renal vein. Okay?
Fat, yes, the fat?
Yeah.
Does it surround the arteries and veins?
Yes.
Or is it just like, as it pierces through it?
No, what you're gonna have the arteries and veins, guys. The most of your organs, when you open up and dissect a human, guys, organs are always going to have what around them? Fat. They're always going to have fat, no matter how skinny you are. You're still going to have fat because it's a shock absorber and an insulator. So all your organs, guys, your heart, even though it works really hard, it's going to be encased in fat. Yes.
Now, you can live without a kidney.
Yes, you can.
What would the other kidney develop? Would it develop something?
Yeah, it
Or
gets-
does it just stay the same?
No, it gets huge. Kidney gets huge. It will hypertrophy to take over the function of the lost kidney. Okay? So it gets tremendous.
Does that diminish your lifespan?
What's that? No, not at all. People can lose one kidney, guys, and live a full life. My friend's dad, he was actually born with one kidney. He didn't even realize it until years later when he was in like his late 60s. And they did a scan for something else and they saw he
He
was
discovered
born.
it in his late 60s.
Yeah. And so he never had trouble his entire life, and he lasted till I think he was 87 when he passed away. So he had a regular full lifespan with one kidney. Okay. Now, guys, the problem is with the kidney is if you donate a kidney. Okay. The problem isn't receiving one because you got to realize if you're sick and your kidneys are shutting down, right? Your body is getting used to that lack of what? Of that good filter of that kidney, okay? So when somebody donates a kidney to you, it's always a what? It's always an improvement, right? So you'll do great. The person that's used to 2 kidneys and all of a sudden gives one away, his poor ass is what? He's working on a decline now, so his body has to recoup from that and get used to it. Okay, so the recipient's doing great, the guy that does the donation, not doing too good, okay? Okay, now, you can live with just one kidney, guys, okay? You cannot last without them, okay? At least one kidney, all right? When the kidney goes, it knocks everything out, which we'll see later on in lecture, guys. Blood pressure goes out, your acid base goes out, everything starts going out, guys, so you can't survive without them, okay? Without one at least. Okay, now, all right, you know what, let me come around quick, and then we'll pick up the other structures inside the kidney.